Welcome to PMCentersUSA's on-demand webinar on the essential BA and PM, how to fit into an agile world. This webinar will run approximately 45 to 50 minutes and will be followed by a 10-question knowledge review quiz. My name is Rick Clare and I'm the Business Analysis Practice Director for PMCentersUSA. I will be your presenter today. I've been working in IT for more than 25 years now as a developer, trainer, project manager, and business analyst. In addition to my practice director duties, I am also usually engaged in various PM or BA contracting jobs, and I am a frequent speaker at various national organizations. The purpose of this webinar is to look at Agile from a perspective of the roles. Companies already have project managers and business analysts on their staff, and when adopting Agile, sometimes there's some confusion about where these people are going to fit into the Agile process. So what we're going to be looking at is where project managers fit into Agile and where business analysts fit into Agile. The individual topics for this webinar are an Agile Overview to put us all in context so we can understand what we're talking about. The Scrum roles and processes, a review of Scrum. Even if you're familiar with it, we need to go over this again so that the rest of the things we're talking about make sense. The project manager in Scrum, the business analyst in Scrum. Some project scenarios highlighting examples of the different roles that these two professions play in Agile. And finally, an examination of the training and mentoring that are going to be needed to get everybody to this point. Okay, well, let's start by defining Agile. Perhaps an easy way to start off would be to define Agile as opposing to the waterfall methodology. So when we talk about waterfall, what we're talking about is large phases throughout the project where everything gets done before you move on to the next piece of work. For example, you would do all of the analysis, then you would move on to the design. You would complete all of the design for the entire project before moving on to execution. Then you would move on and do all of the testing at once, etc., etc. In reality, of course, waterfall projects don't work out so black and white. There's lots of back and forth and lots of individual little phases being conducted in the middle of each of those things. But that's the sort of textbook definition of waterfall. By contrast, Agile is done on the basis of very small pieces of work where each of those phases is done in a very small bite. Okay, there's a whole group of these development methods that are used that define Agile, but probably the best known one is Scrum, and in fact it's going to be used throughout this webinar as the primary example. Okay. Agile mostly shows up in the IT world. That's where most of us are probably familiar with it. But we have to remember that in fact it's useful for other things also. A way to perhaps think about this is instead of saying IT projects, say technical projects. What this does is it moves the methodology out of the area of design and construction and engineering and things like that, which Agile doesn't really work for, but broadens the scope a little bit from just plain old IT. Instead of just computer software, you can use Agile to build new products like new cell phones and things like that. Okay? Agile is a set of these techniques that involve iteration. You do small pieces of work completely and then you move on. What is Agile? Okay, it's an iterative framework. All these methodologies are project life cycles. They're ways of getting projects done. What they are not is a project management life cycle. In fact, there's no such thing at all. Even in the PMBOK guide, there is nothing that would correspond directly to some kind of a universal project management life cycle. Instead, these methodologies and concepts and ideas are applied to all project life cycles, and it doesn't matter whether it's waterfall or Agile. Okay? One of the myths about Agile is that it doesn't really make use of the project management precepts. Sorry, it's just not true. It just uses them in different ways. There are many Agile methodologies, even though the best known one and the one that most people think of when they think of the term Agile is Scrum. It's what we're going to be using, as I said earlier, for most of the examples in today's session. But some of these others, Kanban is associated with the Japanese quality methodology of the same name. It means literally signboard or billboard, and it's essentially a scheduling system to make sure that everything gets done just in time. It makes use of Agile concepts. Probably the next best known one, though it isn't very commonly used nowadays, is extreme programming. Okay, a gentleman named Kent Beck wrote the book on this, and it's characterized by partner programming and by everybody having to be in the same room at the same time in order to get work done. Just for your interest, this is the origin of the myth, and I stress again, the myth, that Agile can't be done virtually. That's not true. Virtual isn't a problem for Agile. Virtual is a problem, period. Okay? In order to get any work done virtually, you're going to have to solve some of those issues. And it can be done in Agile with no problem. You just got to solve the problems in the same way. So other ones are dynamic systems development method, which fixes cost, quality, and time at the outset and uses a prioritization to ensure that only the necessary work gets done. And feature-driven development, it's a model-driven, a very short iteration process that concentrates on the features that have to be developed. That last one, FDD, is only for software development because it refers to features in that way. One of the other myths about Agile is that all projects can be done that way. In fact, some of the Agile fanatics feel that waterfall should be retired and replaced entirely with Agile. Okay, this is not true. There are projects that cannot be done Agile, and an examination of the concept of the triple constraints can probably make that clear. If you've got a situation where the scope is fixed, you just cannot change what you have to deliver, you're going to have a very hard time making Agile work properly for you. Essentially, Agile relies on the ability to flex and change as needed. And the same three constraints apply. If you have a certain amount of work that you've got to get done and you only have a certain amount of time to do it and you can't get all of that work done, then you've got to be free to reduce the scope or to split the time up into different iterations. The same constraints apply to Agile. Okay, it's not possible to have all three of these drawn in the sand without flexibility. Agile, in fact, depends upon that flexibility.